What is good, streaming people? Welcome to another edition of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Tommy Tran. We're getting you ready for another big night across high school football, including a look at the top games of the night and the players you should be looking out for. Let's waste no time. Start with the top 10 excellent schools from MaxPreps. And IMG dropped from 5 to 6. That is because it was a top 5 matchup a week ago. IMG Academy and Mater Dei. Mater Dei coming out on top. Our guy Zack Poff, which I'll introduce in just a little bit, will unpack that game for us. Also, Central of Miami cracks the top 10 and then some, moving from 11 to 5 after its 43-27 win over another South Florida power. That would be St. Thomas Aquinas. And then welcome to the top 10, Colquitt County out of Georgia. They're in the top 10, and we will unpack the Packers in just a little bit. All right, so I mentioned welcoming in Zack Poff, our football editor at MaxPreps. Z-Poff, how are you doing, my friend?
Doing great, man. You know how excited I get when Friday nights come. So, you know, no IMG Mater Dei this weekend, but we still got some big-time games on tap, man.
No doubt. Certainly happy to have you here. Joining us generally every week is Barton Simmons from 24/7 Sports, that is, but he's on location for us. So we're going to miss Barton, but Zack and I are going to hold it down for the next 20 minutes or so. You mentioned the game that you were at a week ago, and that was Mater Dei beating IMG Santa Ana Stadium 28-24. The Monarchs maintain that number 2 position. IMG drops to number 6. So what are your thoughts, your biggest takeaways from that really good game?
Man, it was super impressive to be there in person, man. You truly see how big time both these programs are. You know, there were over 40 D1 players on the field, and you know, there was a ton of hype going into this one, and the game was actually better than all the anticipation leading up to it. Bryce Young, man, what a final drive he had. IMG kicked the field goal to go up by 3 with just over 3 minutes left, and the 2020 USC commit led Mater Dei on a 75-yard drive, went 6 for 6, and also scored the game-winning touchdown. And, you know, a lot of Mater Dei fans have been asking me, how come we're not number 1? I'm not the type to bump a team from that number 1 spot that St. John Bosco is in right now, because they've been winning by an average of nearly 50 points per game. And at the end of the day, they're going to play on October 12th. But I was super impressed with IMG Academy, too. You know, Trey Sanders showed why he's the best running back in the country. He had nearly 200 yards. And Noah Kane had a big-time game, too. But really the story of the game was Bryce Young, over 300 yards passing and had 4 total touchdowns. He, you know, a lot of people kind of going into the year said he wasn't ready for the big stage, and he proved the doubters wrong for sure.
And one side note, a sad emoji for this game, because we will not see one like this, because the governing body of the California Interscholastic Federation changed up some rules. So a Mater Dei IMG matchup will not happen in the near future. Again, you touched upon a little bit. You're not going to put the Monarchs over the Braves until that October 12th matchup. How close, though, are these two schools right now, Zack?
They're, you know, it probably shouldn't even be 1 and 2, to be honest. It should be 1A and 1B, because these are, I believe, the 2 best teams in high school football. I would say Allen out in Texas and then St. John's out in Washington, D.C. are not too far behind. But, you know, you look at what these 2 programs have done. They've both been winning big-time games. Mater Dei's played a tougher schedule, no doubt, but Trinity League play begins this weekend, so they're going to be playing some heavy hitters. Trinity League is basically the SEC of high school football. So get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a fun next 4 to 5 weeks.
No doubt. And again, all roads lead to October 12th. Let's focus on a team that cracked the top 10, and that is number 10, Colquitt County. The best team in Georgia at 6-0. I mean, they beat Grayson 26-24. What did you learn about the Packers, and what are the chances that they now run the table, Zack?
You know, what I learned is they're, you know, they got a great coach, and it shows on the field. You see the score there. They were down 14-3 late in the second quarter. Got a big-time kickoff return touchdown right here from Ponder, and really that got the wheels going for Colquitt County. 6-0 this year. They scored the game's final 23 points, beat Grayson 26-14. And, you know, on paper, Grayson is probably the better team because they got over 20 D1 players. But on the field, Colquitt County showed why they're the top dog and the top team in Georgia. And not only are they the top team in Georgia, you know, they're making a strong case to compete for the number 1 spot by the end of the season. If they keep beating some of Georgia's best teams, that's going to look good for Colquitt County. Just look what they did to McEachern to start the year, 41-7 dub. Warner Robins was undefeated. They took them down 41-14. They've won every game by double digits. Really impressive what Colquitt County's doing. And the 7A Georgia playoff bracket is definitely one of the top 3 in high school football. And if they run the table and run through that, there's a chance that Colquitt County could end the year, in the mix for the #1 spot. And they got a big-time backfield. Dei Edwards, along with Tyler Gett, 2 big-time dudes running the rock. They also got a great defense. They're really good on special teams. They're good everywhere.
Again, they beat Grayson 26-14. I gave Grayson a couple extra points here. But again, Grayson was a school that we had right up at the top. They lose to Bergen Catholic, and now Colquitt County. Colquitt County and the Packers reigning supreme at the moment out in Georgia. So let's take a look at the top 5 scoreboard and get you caught up on a couple of the games, of course, tonight and this weekend. Again, St. John Bosco, he's there Catholic. Mater Dei has its game with Servite. You talked about Allen, Texas, the #3 team that you have in your excellent ratings, taking on McKinney. St. John's out of D.C. has their game on Saturday against Christian Brothers. And then Miami Central, which went from 11-5, they'll be at Norland. Battle of Florida teams in that one. So let's take a look at the schools in the excellent top 25, specifically 11-20. And De La Salle, we'll be talking about them in just a little bit and what they've been able to do. St. Thomas Aquinas drops after the loss to Miami Central, but we're going to focus on number 16, Bingham out of Utah. Who? Zach, tell us about Bingham, Utah, and why are they at number 16?
All right, hey, Bingham, they're a straight power in the state of Utah. Since 2013, all this team's done is win. They've gone 72-6 during that span. They've won 2 state titles in a row. They won 4 of the last 5 state titles. And, a lot of people say, well, they're not playing the heavy hitters from California, Texas, or Florida. But Utah is super underrated when it comes to high school football. And Bingham has been one of the most winning programs since the 2000s. They had Coach Peck, and now they have Coach Lamborn, who's done a phenomenal job since taking over in 2015. And, they beat a very good East team earlier this season. They're cruising right now. They had a big win against Mountain Point, one of the best teams from Arizona. They got a big-time defense. Samodi Peppa is a big-time dude on the defensive line. You got Lolani Langi, too, at linebacker. And J.J. Greenfield, a big-time safety from the 2020 class. He's a 4-star guy. He's easily one of the best defensive backs in high school football. And, Bingham's, they're going to probably win their 3rd straight state title this year. So
they are getting it done. Win, 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 no matter what. So, okay, let's finish up with the top 25 list with the 21 through 25. And we're going to focus on number 22, Mission Viejo out of California, the only new team to join the top 25. 37-35 win over an Orange Lutheran squad. So how are they getting it done this season so far?
What's super impressive about Mission Viejo, yeah, they are 6-0, but mentioned earlier, the Trinity League is probably the toughest in high school football. Mission Viejo is 2-0 against Trinity League opponents this year, and they got that big win last week against a very, very talented Orange Lutheran team. Ryan Holinsky at quarterback, Kyle Ford, a big-time receiver, and tough news for Kyle Ford. He ended up tearing his ACL, so he's going to be out for the year, so obviously hope for a speedy recovery. But what Chad Johnson's doing in his first year since taking over at Mission Viejo, super impressive. Chad Johnson was the former offensive coordinator at St. John Bosco, and he's showing why he should have been a head coach a long time ago, what he's doing Mission Viejo. Got to give a shout out to Achille Arnold. This kid might be the most underrated player in all of California. It's either him or Jacoby Harper. He's doing it on all 3 phases for the Diablos this year. Jamari Farrell out of the backfield's big time, and Joey Yellen, an Arizona State commit at quarterback's balling out along with JoJo Force. So Mission Viejo's got some studs. And we'll find out about Viejo, though, because they're going to be in the open division down in SoCal. So they'll be facing teams like Corona Centennial, Bosco, and Mater Dei in the playoffs. So,
man, that is great stuff from our guy Zach, giving injury updates, recruiting storylines, and coordinator backgrounds. Great stuff, and that's why Zach's a great follow on Twitter. You should definitely do that. All right, so let's take a look at the other notable games across the high school football landscape. St. Louis out of Hawaii, they're number 11 right now on that list. They're in action, so is 20th ranked Duncanville, Texas. LaSalle College taking on 21st ranked St. Joseph's Prep. And then Chandler, Arizona, number 23 in a battle of desert teams out there, taking on Perry on the road. All right, everybody, hey, touchdowns against cancer. Help defeat childhood cancer. It's what it's all about. This particular program is in support of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. One of its kind high school football program aiming to unify teams across the country for a common cause. So teams, parents, students, they can all get involved by pledging a donation for every touchdown their team scores this September. Again, it's Only a couple more days. This is really the last week. You got to get into it, folks. Teams that compete will see those touchdowns raised the most, and you can follow that. Just go to touchdownsagainstcancer.com. Stick with us, everybody. More with Zack Poff and MaxPreps next. Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ, and we start with the best coast. That's the West Coast. And not only because I'm from the West Coast, but our guy Zach's out in California, so that's where we start. We've talked about some of the big dogs. St. John Bosco, Mater Dei. Centennial's been talked about on our program before. They're at number 3, and then Hawaii and St. Louis out there. But now let's focus on De La Salle, the national power, of course. They went on the road to Central California, just outside of Yosemite. Beat Buchanan, which had the top 20 back in Kendall Milton. Milton did everything that he could, 3 touchdowns in a loss. But let's focus on the winning team, the team that takes on Monte Vista tonight. Zach, what do we think about this team right now, which, by the way, you can check them out on cbssports.com/De La Salle and watch those games. Spartans looking pretty good right now, huh?
Yeah, hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And De La Salle has been running the ball very effectively for the last 20 years and playing smash mouth defense. They're doing it again this season. Henry To'oto'o, this dude is an absolute savage. 4-star linebacker, will probably be a 5-star when it's all said and done. He just makes plays on the defensive side of the ball. He also comes in and plays a little running back. This team is a lot more than Henry To'oto'o. He probably gets the most love. You got Isaiah Foskey, who's probably going to be a tight end at the next level, but he plays a lot of defensive end for De La Salle this year. And the guy that's been just tearing it up this year is Shamar Garrett. He's been playing safety and running back. He's got, four or five interceptions this year, 4 or 5 touchdowns running the ball. Really impressive what De La Salle's doing. And, definitely got to give a shout out to Kendall Milton last week, though, for Buchanan. Dude had 3 touchdowns against one of the best defenses, a defense that didn't allow Folsom a single point. So that just shows you how impressive Kendall Milton is, too, for Buchanan High School.
And again, De La Salle actually going to have the week off. They're going to be playing Monte Vista October 5th, so that is a week from tonight. And that is a look at the West Coast. How about the Southwest region? The Southwest region with all the schools here: Allen, Lake Travis, North Shore, Duncanville, and then University Lab. But we want to focus on just the wide receivers in this region, specifically in the state of Texas. Zach, is this the best wide receiver class in Texas history? Quite the statement there.
I'm usually a fan of the moment, and the moment's the class of 2019 receivers. I would say, yeah, it is. And just look at the list right there. Garrett Wilson, 5-star Ohio State commit. Theo Weiss, 5-star Oklahoma commit. Jordan Winnington, a Texas commit, very close to being a 5-star. Then you got Trayon Bridges, R.J. Henderson, both Oklahoma guys. Dylan Wright's an absolute savage. You got to watch the tape on that guy. He's a future Texas A&M Aggie. And the list goes on. And another guy that should be a wide receiver, but he's listed as an athlete, is the new Duncanville star, Marquise Beeson. That kid's an absolute playmaker. But I just look at the top 2 guys, man, and you see the tape on Garrett Wilson and Theo Weiss. It's just off the charts, playmaking ability. Garrett Wilson, I gave him the nickname the Odell Beckham Jr. of high school football. Of course, he loved it. But you just see this guy. He gets he gets his hands on the ball and usually takes it all the way in for 6. And then you got Theo Weiss, who's a bigger wide receiver. Another former Texas guy, Mike Evans. He gets a lot of comparisons to him. He's got a little Julio Jones in him. So you see the tape on these guys, and I would say, yes, this is the best wide receiver class ever in Texas high school football history, and that's saying something. But I think all these guys are going to be impact players on Saturdays and even on Sundays. I mean, Theo Weiss, this guy is special.
Hard to argue with some of the highlights that we've been seeing so far. You mentioned sort of the player comps right there. So again, as you mentioned, a lot of these guys will play on Saturday. A good chance for some of them to play on Sunday. Moving on to the Southeast region. Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, South Carolina, Miami Central, top team in the region, made the biggest jump in the top 25, going from 11 to 6. IMG Academy was at 5. They moved down to 1 spot to the number 6 slot after its loss on the road, going to the West Coast in Mater Dei. We talked about Colquitt County cracking the top 10, and then Carroll City, and then, of course, St. Thomas Aquinas. We do want to focus on the team that's on the rise, and that is Miami Central. How are they doing it, and how are they getting it done against some of the big dogs so far this year?
Now, check this out, Tommy. So St. Thomas Aquinas was 4-0 going into that game. They allowed a total of 6 points, which was, allowing 1.5 points per game. Miami Central rolled into St. Thomas Aquinas and put a 43 spot on the board against arguably the best defense in high school football. Maurice Underwood, a 2019 Marshall commit, he's shown why he's a super underrated quarterback. He's been making plays. He ended the game with 5 touchdowns. But the reason why Miami Central's been balling out this year, they got a bunch of savages on defense. They locate the football and they bring the guy down. They're big time. Jesus Machado, a big time defensive end, transferred over here, and he's been making plays along with Henry Gray at cornerback. But you know, Miami Central, they're not running from smoke this year. They've had a big time schedule. They took St. John's, a top 5 team, to 5 overtimes and almost pulled out that win. But they had, you know, I actually think this was a more impressive win than Mater Dei over IMG Academy, just because they did it on the road and they won by multiple scores. I would say that was the biggest win last weekend. And you get a look at Henry Gray right there, 2020 Miami commit. This dude is he loves to talk, but he backs it up. I call him the Conor McGregor of high school football because he talks a lot, but hey, he backs it up, and I think Conor's going to back it up next week too. So.
When you back it up, the swag is definitely in effect. Hey, I want to follow up on that because you mentioned that their win might be more impressive than what you've seen. Again, when you look at the rankings and how you move teams or move them up or down, obviously Miami Central, the biggest mover up. What goes into consideration? What are some of the challenges there, Zach?
You know, I'm a big guy of strength of schedule. I know Mater Dei fans are going to be like, hey, how come we're not #1? But what Bosco's doing, there's no reason to drop them. But I love teams that aren't afraid to play other national teams. We've seen that with St. John's this year. That's why you see teams like them and Miami Central that are able to move up more effectively, and even Colquitt County playing some of Georgia's best teams. It's hard for teams like Pickerington Central and Bingham, who don't play those out-of-state teams, to take a big leap from the teens into the top 10. And that's why you see teams like Miami Central and St. John's moving a lot in the top 10, because they are getting big-time quality wins, and same thing with Colquitt County. So it goes a long way if you're not afraid to play teams and having that national schedule.
Love it, the method behind the madness there. Okay, let's now go to the Midwest, talk about the region out there, give you a look at the top 5 schools, and it's Pickerington Central, nationally ranked number 15, still undefeated on the year. Zach, can anyone knock them off of the perch right now as it stands today?
Man, it's super tough, man. You know, we talk Georgia 7A as being one of the top 3, Ohio Division I's probably in that mix too. But I just love what Demetri Crenshaw is doing at the quarterback position. He's one of the best from the class of 2020. He likes to compare himself to Cam Newton, and you see him on tape, and you see it. He's a big physical quarterback who's not afraid to run also. The teams that are going to give Pickerington Central the most trouble this year will be a team like Colerain, you know, St. Ignatius, a power from Cleveland, and then obviously Mentor, a team that lost 56-28 to Pickerington Central in last year's Division I championship game. So, you know, they've been thinking about Pickerington Central and Demetri Crenshaw a lot. They would like nothing more to get some revenge on Pickerington Central, but I'm gonna roll with the Tigers, man, just as long as number 10 slinging the rock. That dude he's super saucy, so.
Love it. There we go. The Super Saucy has arrived, 15 minutes into the show. All right, Northeast region. Let's wrap things up in terms of our regional breakdowns. Here's the top 5. St. John's out of D.C., St. Francis Academy, St. Joseph's Prep. A lot of Saints out here. St. Peter's Prep getting in the mix, and Gonzaga out of the D.C. area as well. We've talked about some of these schools, of course, before, but this time we'll focus on the team from Maryland, St. Francis Academy. So they're nationally ranked number 7, but I'm not mistaken there. Their record's 1-0, just the one game. How do you see that, and why are they there?
You know, I usually wouldn't put a team that's 1-0 in the top 10, but I look at St. Francis Academy, and you match them up talent for talent with anybody in high school football, and they match it. And also, it's not their fault that they're so good that teams are afraid to play them. So, and bad weather's been a huge cause for them. You know, they played St. Joseph's Prep earlier this year, a team ranked number 21. They were winning that game 13-7 in the third quarter. Lightning struck. Weren't able to finish the game that night. They ended up canceling the game, so it doesn't show up on the record. But that just shows you that they can hang with top 25 teams. And last week they were supposed to go out to Florida, but bad weather, hurricanes, didn't allow them to make the bus trip over from Maryland to Florida. So just bad luck for St. Francis Academy, but at the end of the day, it will hurt them, and they're probably not going to have a chance to compete for that number 1 spot just because they've lost too many games and teams are afraid to play them. But, you know, it's just tough luck because this team's loaded, man. They got some of the best players in the country for sure.
All right, that's what St. Francis is dealing with. Our guy, Zack Poff, breaking it down like no other. Let's wrap things up. A little bit of recruiting. Now, Spencer Rattler over in Pinnacle out in Arizona has a chance to break the record, right? He's only 28 yards away from that Arizona State record for career passing yards. We know he's verbally committed to OU and Lincoln Riley already. How excited are you about seeing this guy right now and what he's been able to do so far in his high school career?
Yeah, man, you put on the tape earlier. I tweeted out yesterday, I believe he's the sauciest quarterback in high school football. It's either him or modern day's Bryce Young for sure. But, you know, you put on the tape, he's a big-time playmaker in the pocket. And he reminds me of Baker Mayfield a little bit, a former Oklahoma guy. He's got the swagger. He's not cocky. He's confident. And as you mentioned, 28 yards away. And even better nugget is it's his 18th birthday today. So, I don't know what you were doing on your 18th birthday, Tommy, but I know I wasn't breaking a state record for career passing yards. So super impressive what Spencer's doing, and you know, happy birthday. Don't party too hard after you get the dub, and obviously break the state record though tonight, Rattler.
No doubt. I was playing video games trying to do what Spencer Rattler's been able to do on the field in Pinnacle, by the way, hosting O'Connor in its next game. All right, some great stuff.
Hey, you did it in Madden, though, right?
Yes.
You broke the record in Madden that night on your 18th birthday, right?
I certainly did, but I won't tell you what level of difficulty that I put it on there, Zach. All right, so as we take a look at the top 5 high school scoreboard again as we wrap things up, what are you most excited about with this list right here, buddy?
Trinity League football is back. Toughest league in America. DJ Uwangalele, big-time quarterback. He might actually get to play more than 2 quarters tonight against an undefeated J. Sarah Catholic team. That's what I'm looking forward to. You also got Mater Dei and Servite. Super excited to see Trinity League action back. It's going to be fun.
All right. It's always fun on this show. Zack Poff joining us here in CBS Sports HQ. And then, of course, we'll have Barton Simmons back next time as well. Thank you for joining us here for the high school football show in CBS Sports HQ. Have a great weekend, everybody. We will see you later. Again, do not forget, touchdowns against cancer. This is the last week, everybody. Go to touchdownsagainstcancer.com. You can help out the varsity high school football team. You don't have to be on the team. Parents, students, friends, get it done. Enjoy the weekend, everybody. We will see you next week.